Mr. Fracassi, or Mr. Frazier.
Before we vote on this, I would like a clarification from either the planner or our attorney. Week after week, people come to the microphone and throw barbs at us about how we don't know what we're doing. Tonight we had the same thing happen, that the seven of us rezoned everything to parking, the whole St. Bede property to parking. I would like a clarification of that that statement, and so before we go the next step, to clarify it to those people that are watching on TV, to let them know that
Didn't happen.
we do know what we're doing, and that the challenges that come to the microphone are unbased. So if you could answer that.
I'll try without having the specifics in front of me. Just like in this particular case,
Yes.
there is only one Sidwell parcel. So we show on a map the portion of that Sidwell parcel to be rezoned to each particular district with an acreage. So we clearly are delineating what portions of that Sidwell parcel are being considered from P to RMM, R2 to RMM, and R2 to B2. A similar process was followed previously. And there's a map that's published, and the documentation after the council makes the action supports that with a map. So there is only one Sidwell parcel, but we're clearly showing what portion of that Sidwell parcel. In this particular case, we're talking about 0.11 acres. So I believe it was all done properly.
And if you remember, this was in the context of Walmart saying to the funeral home, you know, you're going to give us that bump, so I need that parking. So we rezoned it prior to the Walmart vote. And that's how this came to be rezoned.
And I agree with you. I just want to clarify that.
Clarification, Mr. Frazier, I guess a question to ask. If we had 3 separate hearings tonight, one on each parcel, that could happen, and you and the council would vote on B2 and have another rezoning on RMM, you have another zoning on the B2 to this. So actually, it's all thrown together because you have one developer coming forward. Ordinarily, you know, you could zone B2 and not zone any of the rest of the property because they're all separate. They just happen to be all under the same ZR number.
And I'm going to give the speaker the benefit of the doubt, because we did rezone the funeral home part to parking when we abandoned the street. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they're confused on what piece that we rezoned to parking, and leave it at that.
Okay. So, Mr. Frazier, thank you for that clarification. And we go back to Mr. Fracassi, who's made a motion. I need a support.
I thought it was supported. Jones supported it when he made the original.
Well, a lot of water's under the bridge. All right. So Mr. Fracassi's motion is to rezone.
Well, that's the clerk.
Are you?
You're
all making this very difficult for me.
Okay, the motion I have on the floor that was made by Donald Fracassi and supported by Joan Seymour was to basically approve ZR 1319 minus the 0.11 acre of P vehicular parking.
All right, and I apologize, Ms. Seymour. I forgot that you seconded it. All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Is there any other comment on this? Hearing none, then Ms. Seymour, or rather Ms. Banks, I'm getting weary. Let's take a roll call vote.
Mr. Fracassi?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Lance?
No.
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Ms. Seymour?
No.
Mr. Seibert?
Yes.
Okay, so you have 4 in favor and 2 against, so
All right.
the
so
motion passed.
carries. All right. So we're done with the public hearing on.
She seconded the motion.
Okay.
Not that I recall.
All right. So now, are we? I need some guidance here. Should we go to the special use?
We can.
Oh, need to introduce the ordinance. So this would be Ms. Banks.
17.
1617, please.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I move that we introduce ordinance number 1617.
Support.
It's been moved by Mr. Frazier, supported by Mr. Moss. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion opposed?
No.
2 noes. So it's 4-2. Motion carries. All right, now, we're going to go to the third public hearing, correct? And then go back to the site plan?
Right. No, it's the third overall.
Special use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This, through the chair, GP 1260 is a special use request of AF Jonah Development to construct a new freestanding restaurant on property located at 18290 West 12 Mile Road at the northwest corner of 12 Mile and Southfield Roads. This was originally postponed from the September 23rd, 2013, and this is specifically dealing with the Applebee's and the Applebee's only. Because it's a freestanding restaurant, it's a special use in this district. So it's whether or not the council is in support of the special use allowing the freestanding restaurant.
The B2.
And the
zone,
B2, which is,
which we just,
in theory, been rezoned.
okay. Are we clear?
Are you ready for a motion? Do we want to
Yeah?
discuss?
No, well, we have to have a public
Open the
hearing.
public hearing.
So
That's right.
at this point, then, I will declare the public hearing on the special use of, for an Applebee's restaurant in the B2 zoning that we just approved. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this?
Stephanie English, 28735 San Carlos, Southfield 48074. And I do support the Applebee's location. I have noticed in Southfield certain restaurants that are nationally known that have done well, specifically the Outback restaurant on Greenfield, the Fridays restaurant on Evergreen. And whether or not you like Applebee's, you still want to give people choice. I do feel that the nationally known food chains are like the Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And I think that the Showstack organization, I don't feel that they're giving us really a bill of goods in terms of it has to be done today or not. But if that is the case, then we do need to try to meet that timeline. I know that Councilwoman Seymour has that concern. I think that I would like to thank the Showstack organization for coming back to the table with the developers' invitation, because they probably did have some other municipalities that would have been vying for the same restaurant. I am in agreement with Jeremy in terms of moving the vision forward. I don't think that there would ever be the most perfect project to put there. I do think that it's a good restaurant that will attract the proper, a good client base. Besides the traffic that travels up and down Southfield Road, I think that it will actually be a draw for our sister cities and our touch communities like Birmingham, Royal Oak. I think that if they know that there's an Applebee's in that area, that just like our residents go to Ferndale to Buffalo Wild Wings, if a person or family prefers to go to Applebee's, then we have one in the area. when you look at where the Applebee's are located, there's one at Oakland Mall. I know there's one in Allen Park. I think there's one in Dearborn. Well, when you look at that logistically, then Southfield is actually a suitable location. You know, it's not that they're too clustered together. I think logistically it's a good planned location. And I know the Show Stacks, I used to work at Laurel Park, so I know that the Show Stack organization, they're firm about the quality that they're trying to put in. I'm not just marketing for them, it's just an actuality that I always shopped at Parisian and then Carson's, and their organization is headquartered there at Laurel Park, so I'm familiar with them as a business. So I thank you for inviting. I'm speaking to the developer, Mr. Jonah. I thank him for actually trying to recourt and bring the Applebee's back. I heard what Lily said in terms of, she doesn't prefer to eat at Applebee's. It's not maybe my first choice, but I know my kids would like it. They're 22 and 31. And I do know that a lot of graduation groups, there's a lot of celebration, family-type celebrations that are done. And if you go to Outback and you go to Fridays during the middle of the week, they're crowded. They're crowded on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So I'm assuming that, again, a nationally known chain is going to have the same type of draw here.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on the special use permit?
I'd like to compliment the woman. Maybe is this yours, Mr. Crow? Okay. It's this rezoning, and now she's describing how busy the Applebee's are while we're considering locating it as close to residential as the commercial school was located across the street from me. And I can tell you, when Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, when they rent the school out, it's a nightmare of traffic. This year they've added 4 school buses times 2. 8 school buses now deliver as little as 1 and 2 children to this development that was promised to be contained and run under local ordinance. People are running across Telegraph with a 50-50 chance that they'll get across the side of Telegraph that doesn't have the traffic light to Burger King, a nationally known chain. This frantic need to get to these nationally owned brands, as the woman stated, she is very familiar, and the type of people she and Mr. Moss represent are different than the residents who wish to find a home in Southfield. Not a national chain, and certainly not an auto store on the banks of the Rouge River to replace Big Boy. Is that in the master plan Nick Banda left us with? Big box auto parts, thousands of chemicals on the banks of the Rouge River. That was another national-owned chain that we had to have, similar to Starbucks, that after Aerosmith got thousands and millions in tax breaks, didn't stay open. They're less than a half mile from Aerosmith. How come a national-owned chain like Starbucks couldn't find enough customers after the thousands of jobs you created, Mr. Frazier, Mr. Siver, by the millions of dollars in tax breaks? Now we're told maybe a brownfield tax grant? Are you considering a brownfield tax grant?
You're addressing the council, Mr.
All right.
You're addressing the council.
Will the applicant for rezoning for restaurant be able and entitled to request either a brownfield tax grant or a tax abatement once you move on this issue? For the permanent official, unabbreviated, electronically recorded minutes through the chair, will this council ever consider tax breaks for this company that's promising to do it on its own? Yes or no?
We don't debate here.
I know.
We'll
That's
answer.
the trouble with communications where we can't get an honest
We'll
answer.
answer your question when you're done speaking.
I've been asking questions the whole time. I make statements
We
of
have
fact.
answered your questions. Mr. Bunker,
I make statements of fact, City Council President Siver, with a question mark at the end. Why did Lear get $35 million in tax breaks and create a $400 million bankruptcy between the time you were elected and the time they went bankrupt? These questions can't be answered honestly because the records have already been altered to show that Lear never got a tax abatement. Isn't that the list you created, Mr. Charette, in 2010? Does Lear exist ever on the tax abatement list? Is this a future tax abatement recipient that's going to be deleted from a 30-year, 40-year-old policy benefiting them and leaving us, like with Aerosmith, Mr. Frazier? He gave them a $3 million tax break. They created a $9 million bankruptcy 3 years later. Lear took the blueprint created by Frazier and used it to create a $400 million bankruptcy by claiming they were a national brand that we had to support. Lear, who wouldn't want Lear in their city? I don't. Not after they criminally took $400 million from the federal government via tax abatements and brownfield tax grants that were valid up until the mayor was running for re-election and Lear announced they were going to file. We didn't know that until after the election. It's unfortunate Mr. Band is not here to tell us his rendering of how this fits with the master plan. It cost us $250,000 and 6 or 7 years of his life to leave us unknowing of a master plan that encourages, for the sake of national chains, residential disruption. These people who Friday, Thursday, Saturday, those are the days people in homes nearby attempt to sleep. Never mind the 1 and 2 bedroom places that, if they're not up for celebration, I don't think they'll move next to a Applebee's, Mr. Moss. Maybe in your life, in your group of friends, that's where they want to live. We appreciate peace and quiet. And if rezoning is considered, this could end up like next door to me, a traffic nightmare. Thank you, and respect. Only questions that I feel people should understand.
Your time is up, Mr. Bunker. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council on the special use request for B2 zoning? Yes, sir.
My name is Jack Walred, 29210 Rock Creek Drive.
Good evening.
Approximately 2/10 of a mile from that site, straight west. I've forgotten whose remark it was, but the housing market right here is not very attractive at the moment. All of us in that area have houses worth a great deal less than they were several years ago. That won't surprise any of you. A bunch of new young professionals outnumbering the streets that Don was talking about that he was groping for are Winterset, Somerset, and the spray or the connecting link is the end of Framingham. Mm-hmm. In those few houses there are a number of empty ones. There are several others probably basing it on similarity with our neighborhood, underwater. We need help with that. We need to stop letting good people get foreclosed any number of ways. Well, there's a very imaginative attack on that afoot you probably know about in Richmond, California, suburb of San Francisco. They're acquiring mortgages by eminent domain. It's a pretty imaginative move, and it seems like it works. Well, anyway, a big lump of new housing attractive to nobody and doing nothing to help our problem is not a good idea. It will not be a popular idea in our neighborhood or in the city, as we won't be quiet about it.
Mr. President. Anyone else who wishes to address the council on the special use permit?
Mr. President, my name is Gerard Mullen. My address is Post Office Box 155, Southfield, Michigan 48037. Council's legal notice for this public hearing JP 1260, violates state law because it fails to describe properly and accurately the true nature of this request by failing to state a needed material fact. The missing material fact is that this is also a freestanding bar, a booze joint, a launching pad for drunks, for pedestrian drunks and drunk drivers to hazard across one of Michigan's most dangerous intersections, according to SEMCOG, 12 Mile and Southfield Road. In fact, according to SEMCOG, in this region, Southfield Road and 12 Mile are two of the most dangerous roads in Michigan. In other words, the whole area is chancy. This risky neighborhood is difficult enough for us sober drivers to venture in today. But what about us? But what about tomorrow? What about tomorrow's newly empowered drunk drivers attracted to this perilous sector by a future newly built bar, a tavern, a haven for drunks and drunk drivers? To top it off, the petitioner's happy hour coincides with the peak afternoon rush hour, a true formula for a bad hair day. Is this good planning? Is this good city planning? To place a watering hole for drunks on the northwest corner of this notoriously unsafe intersection and section. What's next on council's agenda? A bomb factory next to an elementary school? Have you folks any sense, any common sense, or any sense at all? Walmart is surely a lesser evil. If you were to ask the road commission what impact this pub would have on this intersection, they would probably give you the following stoic answer. It would cause only a small increase in fatalities. You won't even notice the difference. To paraphrase Joseph Stalin, a million deaths is but a statistic. A single death is a tragedy.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address the public hearing? May begin.
Pamela, excuse me, Pamela Jarrow, P.O. Box 155, Southfield, Michigan 48037-0155. My telephone number is 248-346-0439. And residents, thank you for continuing to call me to express some of the concerns that some of you aren't able to come and share before the council. I'm concerned about that too. I mean, if I was privy to have a condominium in that location, if that was going to be condominiums, would I want to be in front of a funeral home? And then would I want to be so close to a place that does have a liquor license? I'm not saying that I don't like Applebee's. I've eaten there before, got an issue with some of them and how they fix my salmon. It's not like beans and cornbread all the time, but not against the restaurant, not against the restaurant being in the city of Southfield. It's just the location. And I'm going to pose the same question again. You know, there is the issue of the traffic hazard at that corner, that intersection, on a given day, and you guys have stated that business is down on that corridor. You still are pretty much near this gentleman's street, Rock Creek, making a left turn. So put the Applebee's there with the liquor license and people coming to eat and to drink. And then you have a funeral home right across the parking lot. And then you have people crossing 12 Mile to go to the funeral home during a funeral. It sounds like a potential disaster to me. But I'm going to phrase the question again. Why is it so much development between 10 and 12, and we are forgetting about those Southfield neighbors that are south of 10 and north of 8? You are sending a developmental message to the residents that vote. And residents, there's an election on Tuesday, November 5th. You're sending a message that City Hall and downtown starts at 10 Mile, and it goes from 10 to 12. You're excluding a lot of the people in those areas with development. Now, you guys have allowed unfinished projects to exist in this city, and let me refresh your memory. Springhaven, those beautiful townhouses near Beverly Hills on Southfield Road, how great it would be for the city of Southfield to have housing, to have these beautiful townhomes. Question, did the project ever finish? And have you looked at it lately? Have you looked at the condition of the places? Those people complained about that access right in the back of these $150,000, $60,000 at one time or more townhomes. Did it ever finish? I agree with this man. You've got a lot of vacant houses here in Southfield. You've got a lot of houses that were foreclosed. Why not redevelop those? That's a question. I mean, if you want to comment now, I'll acquiesce and yield to, some of my time. There are so many casual restaurants in this city. How do you attract a place like Andiamo's? How do you attract a Papavino's? How do you get a Joe Muir's here? Remember the Bijou on Southfield Road? How do you get restaurants like that? People are kind of tired of these really quick, bring out your meal in 10 or 15-minute places. They want fine dining. And you talk about containing everything in Southfield right now. Where do you go for fine dining in Southfield? There are some great restaurants. Joe Muir's opened up downtown near the river. Andiamo's is down on 15 and Telegraph, and also near Joe Muir's downtown on the river. How do you get restaurants like that? And why are we not able to attract restaurants like that?
15 seconds.
So I want someone to address the question, the development between 10 and 12, and you're missing 10, south of 10 to that 8 Mile corridor. And what about bridging the gap with 8 Mile and Southfield? Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council on the special use permit?
Well, tonight we have a takeover.
This is a public hearing.
Geraldine Amato. I can be in accord with most of the comments made thus far. In the larger picture, if we don't have food to stock those restaurants, they are not going to be useful at all. And we are going along. I can see that most of the municipal corporations' operatives, in obeisance to the master's comprehensive plans, will continue to do business as usual, and we will continue to weaken ourselves for the final confrontation that is surely coming to this nation. People like Councilman Moss apparently have not had any direct encounters with the criminals that run our legal judicial network as I have. So it's difficult for me to forget who they are because I've had a direct encounter. My family has been ruined by organized crime within government. And unless the good people of this nation decide to do something other than going along with the program, we will inherit the disaster that we deserve then, apparently. There are enough corrupt people in every strata of society to say, what's the use? Why even worry about it? They deserve what's coming. But there's still a few good people left. And if they decide to put their minds and hearts in motion with integrity and honor and use the resources we still have in possession before we lose everything that we could possibly work with to change direction of the ship of state. You know, today some of us still have resources in possession, but we choose to squander them on trivialities and on the American Disneyland here that a lot of us are locked into. The middle class will no longer exist if we continue to do this. And the masterminds and the overlords, being not benevolent, they will do us in. And while we're playing around and playing footsie with them, they've got a strategy to come down on us with both feet and both barrels blaring. There's a move to disarm the American public after shoot-em-outs that were set up by the masterminds behind the scenes, shoot-em-ups and shoot-em-outs. And when the good people are disarmed and they have no way of protecting themselves, you could be sure that you'll be very available to be moved out of the way if you're not considered useful to them. These people that control the federal government are evil, malicious people, and they have a huge propaganda machine, and we are being suckered in from day to day. This private commercial jurisdiction does not belong to the good people of this nation, and the developers don't own what they develop, and their banks of credit script that's in one of the master's banks is worth zilch tomorrow if the master so decides. So we're building up ourselves a, what do they call it, a paper empire that will easily burn up with the master's click of the mouse on the electronic gadgetry that we flaunt so readily around these parts. This electronic gadgetry is going to do us in because we have no hands-on skills and we don't know how to use our resources for anything intelligent, for people that can see the future. We don't even understand where we're headed. We're lost in a morass of ignorance, and we're not taught. God help us. What does it have to do with this here special use permit? It has a lot to do with it. We're doing what the master wants us to do for the time being while major plans to bring this nation down are being set up. And these methods that are being used here at the local level, with the few resources we have left, well, we still have a mind left. Our minds are being fried with all this electronic gadgetry as well. We can't even think straight anymore. While we still have some emotions of caring for other folks, we need to do something different is all. That's why I come here and I sit and endure these meetings to this time. I'd rather be somewhere else, and I don't like being here. I just believe I have a responsibility to try to call to the attention of those who are willing to listen of where we need to be thinking and where we need to be heading. And I thought that was interesting, a report I got that you reran the last, what do you call it, city council meetings without the audio. I don't have cable myself, so I don't review these meetings. I wouldn't even sit through them if I didn't have something to say. But that's clever, to rerun the meetings without the audio, if that's a true report.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council on this special use permit or request?
Mr. President.
Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed.
I move GP.
Mr. President.
Mr. Lance had asked to be recognized first. Mr. Lance?
Yes, I have an answer for Fred Bunker. At a site plan committee meeting 2 weeks ago, Mr. Fracassi offered Mr. Jonah the brownfield business. Okay? And that'll cost the people
Please.
money. And you'll have to excuse me. I had enough tonight.
Mr. Chairman.
There's another session with all the communication and all the other visitors speaking.
Okay. Mr. Moss had asked to speak, and then I'll go to Mr. Fracassi.
I just want to make three quick observations given the speakers. The first, to the gentleman from that neighborhood, I mean, you're absolutely right. Property values are declining, and we as a city are affected by it. Our revenues in City Hall, our services we can provide are affected by that. And we put a huge priority on this neighborhood stabilization program, so this isn't off of our minds, and certainly isn't off of my mind. My mind. My immediate observation of this is that the alternative, is living next to a blighted, abandoned church until the foreseeable future, as you have been over the last several years. So I think that this development is in turn going to help the health of that neighborhood and increase property values. Second observation was the question's been said, why don't we develop the DDA, or why don't we develop other areas of Southfield? This is the area that's on the agenda. As I said, the alternative for not approving this is keeping this an undeveloped, abandoned property. I'd love for Mr. Jonah, I'm sure he's enjoyed this whole exercise of coming to Southfield City Council. And I'd love for him to look at other areas of Southfield and help us keep moving. I hope, we can work with you again in the future. But those areas are on our mind as well, but this is what's on our agenda tonight. And then the third is that I grew up in this area of Southfield. My parents still live there. And years ago, we had Mr. B's and we had Eastside Mario's and other restaurants in that area. And so I think adding an Applebee's is a strength. It's going to rebuild this corridor of Southfield and hopefully make it what it once was. So I'll now punt it back to Mr. Fracassi for the motion.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I want to clarify the comment that Mr. Lance made and walked out on it. Yes, absolutely. I would offer anybody a Brownsfield if they have properties that have to be torn down to become buildable. The competition has open cornfields that people are building on without tear down. They're building on raw land. To compete, there has to be an offer to them through the state to go ahead and give an incentive to tear down the buildings, Mr. Bunker and Mr. Lance. Those are the ways you can have to compete. Being a first-tier community, those are the tools we have to use. And if you have a better solution to it, God bless you. Secondly, let's talk about south of 10 real quick. We had $25 million on OCC, if you're listening. We had $2.5 million we tore down Ramada Inn. You got Oakland Hospital down there. You got a brand new Huntington Bank down there, just to name a few.
All right. I will entertain a motion to...
I moved it, 1260.
Okay. It's been moved by Mr. Fracassi, support by Mr. Moss. Is there any other discussion on the special use? Hearing none, then I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right.
We have, through the chair, we have one more item. And to help simplify, it sounds like Mr. Jonah is willing to go back to the drawing board on the residential site plan portion. And in anticipation that only the business portion of the site plan would go forward, we have a modified recommended resolution for City Council's consideration. I'd like to pass that out and read it into the record, and hopefully that will expedite.
What is that on? What does that cover?
It just will cover the commercial portion and eliminates the residential portion, which he'll come back at a later point.
Site plan you're talking about?
Yes, on the site plan.
What if I have questions on the site plan? On the commercial part?
Yes, that's still open for discussion. I just have a recommended resolution when you get to that point.
I got you. Go ahead.
So I'm going to just pass that out, and then we'll be able to take questions on the site plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, Ms. Seymour.
I'd like to mention something. We have violated our own procedure in having these changes come directly to us without having come to a study session. That's been just condensed. These changes that were made to this site plan should have come back to a council study session, and it did not. It went right directly to a public hearing. That's a violation of our process, and I think it should not be overlooked.
Yes.
Through the chair, as I had stated, the council directed that this item goes specifically back to the site plan committee. On October 7th, they held a meeting. These changes are as a direct result from the direction that was given by the site plan committee. So these changes that are being brought back are based on the recommendation of the site plan committee.
But
reduce the number of waivers, reduce and change the configuration, reduce the number of building, add the berm. So these are all consistent with what the recommendations from the September 9th COW and the October 7th Site Plan Committee.
But those changes should have come back to the council, because just because the site plan committee said do this or do this, the rest of the council didn't hear it. This is wrong. This is absolutely a violation of our process, and it shouldn't be happening.
Mr. Jonah, I'll recognize you.
Mr. Chair, thank you. The changes.
Interrupting, please.
I'd like a copy of what you're reading, so I'm intelligent as you are. Can I have a copy of what you're considering?
Not right now, Mr. Bunker. We'll be glad to provide it
Mr. Chair,
to you.
Seymour,
Mr. Jonah's got the floor.
we made absolutely no changes to the retail portion of the site plan. The only thing that we changed after the
For the
meeting.
apartments, right?
Yes, and we're not. We're going to go back to the drawing board and come back to the committee before we come to council next time. So what we're looking for you to approve as far as the retail portion had no changes made whatsoever.
I understand that.
So, for what it's worth.
But my point was about what the total plan.
Right, but we didn't make any changes.
No,
what
but
we're
I
looking for you to
understand.
approve, we didn't make any changes.
I understand that.
Okay.
But I wanted to make that point because those other things should have come back to council first. Before this.
Okay, you've made your point. Let's move on.
Process.
We have before us, and Mr. Crow, perhaps you'd like to read it for the record so that the audience could hear exactly what is being proposed.
Resolved that GP 1260 SP 1306, the special use and site plan review request of AF Jonah Development to construct a new 5,430 gross square foot Applebee's restaurant and 30,000 gross square feet of retail with associated parking on property located at 18290 West 12 Mile Road on the northwest corner of West 12 Mile Road and Southfield Road, Sidwell parcel number 2411-479-065, Section 11, City of the Southfield, Oakland County, State of Michigan. Site plan dated August 21st, 2013, and received by the Planning Department on August 21st, 2013, with amendments with the following conditions, subject to approval of ZR 1319 by the City Council. Since the residential portion is being removed at this time, there will be one waiver required of the screen wall between the R2 and B2 zoning districts, which will be satisfied if the garages get built. The site plan approval, including any attached landscape plan, does not constitute landscape plan approval. A final detailed landscape plan must be submitted to the Planning Department and be approved prior to issuance of any building permits. Item number 4, the petitioner is to provide an undulating landscape berm along Southfield Road and West 12 Mile Road, which will be reviewed and approved by the Planning Department as part of the overall landscape plan for the site. Item number 5, exterior lighting will be shielded to prevent spillage of glare onto adjacent properties. Item number 6, the balance of the property not to be developed at this time will need to be graded to provide a smooth surface, 4 inches of topsoil, hydroseeded, seeded, or mulched. Item number 7, the petitioners to provide a sprinkler system for all landscape areas to encourage preservation of plant materials. Item number 8, the petitioners to execute a perpetual maintenance agreement for the landscape and park areas both on the site and the right-of-way, which includes maintenance of the stormwater detention system. Item number 9, the petitioners to implement the recommendations made by the Southfield Police Department's Crime Prevention Bureau regarding site security. Item number 10, the buildings are to be constructed in accordance with the submitted elevations. Item number 11, approval of the site plan and building elevations represented herein does not constitute nor guarantee approval for signage. Separate approval and sign permits must be obtained from the building department for any proposed signs. Item number 12, bike racks shall be installed in accordance with Article 4, Section 5.29, subsection 12. This recommendation is made for the following reasons. The submitted site plan with conditions recommended to the Planning Department by the Planning Department and the Planning Commission will be in accord with the spirit and purpose of the Southfield zoning ordinance. Secondly, the proposed development would provide a reasonable arrangement of use of the property and provide adequate vehicular traffic circulation as reviewed and recommended by the city traffic engineer. Number 3, the site plan does show that a proper relationship exists between major thoroughfare and any proposed pedestrian pathways, service roads, driveways, and parking areas, thus encouraging pedestrian vehicular safety. And finally, all the development features, including the principal building, open space, pedestrian pathways, service roads, drives, and parking areas, are so located and related so as to minimize the possibility of any adverse effects upon adjacent properties.
All right. So we have an alternative motion that our planner is proposing, and this would be to approve the site plan for the retail frontage on Southfield Road as well as the Applebee's restaurant. Do I have a motion in support of that?
That's the site plan.
This is approving the site plan for the frontage, so the business.
I had 2 comments on that, though.
Let's get the motion on the floor.
Okay. Yeah,
and then we'll.
Yeah, I'm for it.
Okay.
Had 2
So
questions.
it's been moved by Mr. Frazier, and I didn't hear.
Support.
Thank you. Supported by Mr. Moss. All right, now, comments.
Yeah, I have on my one plan, reading the scale, I've got that little portion between the two, retail as 25 feet road in, and then I measured it on one of the little sheets as 15 feet. Which is it?
Well, I'll have the developer address it, but I believe what they did was to accommodate your request to put a berm along 12 Mile Road.
Yeah.
They took a little bit of green area from the south, the middle, and the north part of the property, and I'll ask you to confirm that if that's true.
That's true. That's what we did.
So it's 15 feet then instead
Yes,
of
sir.
25? I just want to make sure that is well lit for security reasons. The other item I only had was the corner where the monument is. I would hope that maybe a plaque be put there instead of the monument. And the reason I say that is there's a 17-foot diameter signal pole right there on that corner that goes across diagonally to Lathrop Village. And the monument and the post would be in competition to each other. And I'd just like you to look at it, if whatever you want, but I just would like to bring that up. Number 2 is there a way in which, very similar to what they did at CVS at 11 Mile last year, they have bricks on both sides and then a walk path between. So when you walk from corner to corner with the light, you could walk right into your thing instead of having it closed off.
No, absolutely. We
You know
would
what
do
I mean? I see them all the time walking across 11 Mile Road and then going right into CVS because there's a gap in the hole there. It's nicely landscaped, but that's all I have.
Mr. Moss?
Yeah, I had a question. We'd mentioned at the study session that you were in talks with the ownership of the Southfield Commons to help trying to, get some spillover, retail there, and helping them out. Is there a connection, or is there a vision for a connection between the two?
Yes, there is. We've actually traded documents to create the connection between the property to the north and us.
That's good to hear.
And I had a question. The area between the two retail buildings, originally, if I remember correctly, you were talking about having seating there?
Yep. Depending on what tenants go into those end units, the 2 units, but those are slated for food on both sides.
I mean, the point I'm trying to make is that this isn't just like an alley.
No, not at all.
This
will be well
space.
landscaped and different ground features, different paver system than the balance of the center.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Is there any other comment? Hearing none, then Ms. Banks, I'll take a roll call on this as well. This is to approve the site plan SP 1306 minus the apartments.
Mr. Fracassi?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Ms. Seymour?
No.
Mr. Seibert?
Yes.
Okay, you've got 4 in favor. The motion passed.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, thank you. And if I may, I'd just like to ask one quick question. Do you get compensated by the hour for tonight?
You know what? I walked back there and somebody brought in pizza, and I was going to stay back there and get my little pop, but I decided to come out and hear you again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you. I do just want to say for the record, it is a full moon, right?
Yeah.
I'm just
must
saying,
be.
it's a full moon.
It must be.
It's a full moon.
And
We've got an hour yet.
Mr. Jonah and Mr. Shostak, thank you for your patience.
Very much.
David, nice seeing you, David.
All right, at this point, we move to the council, rather communications. And the first person who's I'm calling on is Pamela Gerald.
No, I think I'll go back and get some pizza. Kenneth?
I have it quiet in the auditorium, please. I'll be with this in a minute. Ms. Gerald, go ahead.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay. Pamela Gerald, P.O. Box 155, Southfield, Michigan 48037-0155. My telephone number is 248-346-0439. I'm going to switch what I was going to originally talk about and just impress upon the residents that we have an election coming up Tuesday, November 5th. There are going to be 4 council positions. I seriously hope all this summer, leading into the fall, ever since this Walmart issue, that you guys have been paying very, very close attention to what's been going on at these council meetings, how some of your elected officials have been representing you or lack thereof. And I heard it stated by a previous candidate, and I thought it was a very classy saying. Residents, you have to treat your vote like an Oscar, and you have to vote for who you think is going to best represent you. Now, remember I talked about the Christmas list, and I talked about the naughty and nice. You make that decision for yourself. If you call me and ask me what I think, I'll certainly tell you. I will also recommend who I think would be great on this council. But it's time for a change. We can't keep doing the same old thing, developing the same old areas, 10 to 12. We can't have residents feeling like City Hall starts near an elected official's house that the city of Southfield starts at City Hall or at an elected official's house or in his neighborhood. So those are the kinds of things that I hope you're paying very, very close attention to. City Hall and the city of Southfield does not start at 10 Mile. It starts north of 8 Mile, between Greenfield and Inkster, between 8 Mile and 12.5 Mile. You guys have basically just forgotten about the people in the John Grace area. You're not even pushing for any kind of development over there. You have forgotten about the people on 9 Mile. You've got streets over there that you guys haven't even filled the potholes with. And you're sitting here boasting about all this development that you've done, but you've done it in a certain area. You've done it in the desirable areas. Real creativity, real innovation is developing areas that have not been developed. And you guys have not done a good job with that. You really should be ashamed of yourselves. Where is downtown Southfield at? Is it Northland? Is it the DDA? Because you call it the Downtown Development Authority. So are you going to change that area and no longer call it the DDA? And you're going to make this Central Boulevard, Civic Plaza, across from City Hall, the parking lot where maybe you should have put the Walmart? Are you going to start calling that downtown Southfield? You know, I went to a meeting where all of you were at with the Planning Commission, the Zoning Board, and all of these fancy smancy people that represent the city. And this was when the owner of Northland was there, or his representative, the gentleman from New York. And you asked him a question, Mr. Moss. You said, what can we do for you, this city council? That was the wrong question. You would ask that of a developer that, number one, doesn't live in the city, doesn't know about the residents, and does not know what redeveloping the downtown area would mean. That's where a tax abatement should come in handy. Northland was built in 1954. Have you been in the basement lately? You got a lot of old mechanics there. Mechanical mechanisms. You got an old boiling system. That's where a tax abatement is due. Not to Lear and Denso, billion-dollar companies. So now, what do you do to develop that area? Do you think if that man was here, he would be happy to know that there's a brownfield development that's going to take place at the primest location in the city of Southfield, as alluded to?
Your time is up, Miss.
You guys need to get up,
Your time is up.
get involved, and develop that DDA now for these residents.
Your time is up. Thank you. Next, give Gerard Mullen.
Good morning, Mr. President. My name is Gerard Mullen. My address is Post Office Box 155, Southfield, Michigan, 48037. At the last televised council meeting on September 23rd, Mr. Lance claimed that I live in Farmington Hills, that gem of a city across the street from Denso Park. Previously, on June 17th, Councilwoman Jordan claimed that I am a non-resident. Also on June 17th, Councilman Fraser said that the diagonal on my sweatshirt, on my Walmart sweatshirt that I am now wearing, is backwards. If this council spent less time worrying about me, my address, and how I dress, this city would be in a lot better shape today. Public safety would be fully staffed, the police would finally have a contract, and we would all be safer and more secure. But no, this council has a different agenda. This council is more concerned about me, a mere resident, a mere Southfield resident, than it is concerned about public safety. Why? Because I speak truth to power. So instead of taking care of business, the people's business, this council prefers to give me the business by attacking me personally. One type of an attack, a personal attack that was used against me, is shoot the messenger. That task was assigned to Hitman Fraser, the voice of reason. The assassination attempt against me in my Walmart sweatshirt on June 17th was bungled by Mr. Fraser when the voice of reason shot himself in the foot. That's got to hurt. A second type of an attack, a personal attack, that is now being conducted against me is the big lie, a smear campaign. Council's big lie against me is that I am a non-resident. This lie was started by Councilwoman Jordan and then followed up by Councilman Lance, a 1-2 combination punch that is designed to knock me out of this arena. Instead, I'm still clinging on to the ropes, knowing that I, a mere resident, a mere Southfield resident, doesn't have a chance against this cabal. the Gang of Seven. So I will be hitting the canvas tonight, swinging all the way as I go down. Here goes. The smear campaign against me was launched on June 17th by Council President Pro Tem, that is, Councilwoman Jordan, when she, the First Lady of Family Victory Fellowship Church, bore false witness against me twice. The first time Pastor Jordan bore false witness against me was when Pastor Jordan stated that I was a non-resident. The second time Reverend Jordan bore false witness against me was when Reverend Jordan stated that she had documentation that I am a non-resident. If Reverend Jordan has such documentation, it has to be false, just like Pastor Jordan's words are false. The second front of this carefully orchestrated smear campaign against me was launched on September 23rd, when Mr. Lance stated that I live in Farmington Hills. Mr. Lance, what is your evidence that I live in Farmington Hills? You have none because there is none. You lied just like Pastor Jordan lied, big time in prime time. Mr. Lance, why did you bear false witness against me? A Southfield resident and voter who has supported you for over 30 years, and a U.S. Army veteran to boot. Why? Have you no shame? Have you no shame? Have you no shame? Mr. Lance, you and your co-conspirator, Reverend Jordan, and fellow co-center of the Ninth Commandment, should not be sitting here on this council tonight. Instead, you both should be sitting together like two peas in a pod in the hottest spot in hell.
All right, next I'm calling on George Young, who I believe has left the chambers. Let the record show he's not present. Next, Damian Perry, who also left. Let the record show that. Geraldine Amato is next.
It is morning, isn't it? It's midnight. I only endure these meetings for the purpose of trying to share with those who may be interested what I have learned during the last many years of my life, which I should have been taught and learned the first few years of my life. You had a member of the aristocracy here from the educational system, that black guy with the Irish surname in the beginning of this meeting. We have indoctrination in our schools. I attended public schools all my life. I was not taught the truth. I attended university. I even read for a visually handicapped legal arts student, I call them, law student. Law is not studied in law school. It's his private commercial jurisdiction that's studied. And now all those Bar Association operatives in place are required, whether they like it or not, to uphold and to enforce the private commercial jurisdiction. We are residents, things identified on this federal reservation. But the worst part of it is these people in control at the top were prophesied about by such folks, the original statesmen like Patrick Henry, and we never study it in school. We have an unlawful central government in Washington, D.C., and it is compounded by the fact that we have a gang of rogues and outlaws working the system. They have a whole propaganda machine going full force, and the educational curriculums are part of it. The entertainment field, the so-called news media, so that we are kept in confusion and deception, not understanding where we really are and where we are headed and who's actually in control of our lives. We have all these mouthpieces in Washington, D.C., and their orchestrated circuses, for example, talking about other nations killing their people with chemical weapons. What about Agent Orange in Vietnam and our troops, some of whom are still alive and suffering? And what about the nuclear bombs detonated on those two Japanese cities in 1945 under the 33rd president, a 33rd degree Mason, Harry S. Truman? And they named the site where they detonated the first bomb in Alamogordo, White Sands, New Mexico, the Trinity site. One of the plays on that, besides the 333s all over the place, but those two Japanese cities had a history of Christian missionaries having been there. And so they were playing with the Christian Trinity or mocking it. The Trinity site in New Mexico is under the 33rd degree northern latitude on the globe. That bomb was detonated July 16, 1945. That adds up to 33. August 6, 1945, they dropped the bomb in Hiroshima. That date adds up to 33 as well, and under the 33rd degree northern latitude on the globe. And 3 days later, they dropped the one on Nagasaki. The name of the plane, the name of the bombs, all have occultic symbolism with these malevolent scoundrels who practice the ancient black crafts or whatever they're up to. We don't need to study what they're doing, but we can see in recent events the same numerological codes encrafted. If you listen to the news broadcasts on events they claim were accidents or works of nature, well, the Pentagon's military admits to having weather modification technology, but we don't ask the question, what do they do with it? We talk about biochemtrails off the mainstream press. That's a chemical weapon. There's chemicals being used in the pharmaceutical industry. That's chemical warfare against our own people. Youngsters, because they won't sit still in these desolate classrooms in the educational system, are being dosed up with all kinds of psychotropic drugs. That's black magic as well as chemical warfare against our own people. Are we going to continue to let these malevolent scoundrels devastate our lives, ruin our lives, steal our resources, and leave us high and dry without resisting them? They're depending on it. It is said that this nation will remain the land of the free so long as it is a home.
You have 15 seconds.
Well, the brave and the good need to step forward. Good people aren't perfect people, but they don't deliberately do evil to others with no conscience about it and with malevolent, sinister plans against people. The good people need to do something. You can cut off the microphone now, Councilor Siver. You should really invite me back here to expound on my views. I get, a few fractured...
Ms. Amato, Mr. Bunker, you're next. Mr. Bunker?
Fred Bunker, 24201 Garner, Southfield, 48033. Regarding the vote, upcoming vote, and the vote 4 years previous to now, a large amount of people turned out for the last election and voted specifically not for mayor, not for council person, but for an ordinance that we've been told has to be delayed after more than 60% of the people voted for it. Recently, the feds, in a newspaper article, claim they won't challenge states' efforts to legalize marijuana. I remember that was the fear you all shared, that the federal government would come after us if, unlike Michigan, unlike states that have made this decision by resident vote, we should get what we voted for. We didn't have a city attorney until just recently. Congratulations on your promotion. Will you continue to prevent the vote from 2009 from being realized by our elected officials after a majority of residents approved this ordinance in your capacity as city attorney to determine when an election has been publicly and, promoted legally as a decision that residents would be allowed to make? What decision did we make, Mr. Frazier, as you were in attendance and knew about the election? Did the residents make a decision, in your opinion, for the permanent official record through the chair, the unabbreviated, electronically recorded public minutes? Did the residents send you a message? No answer. The city attorney also declines to answer on her intentions regarding a vote 4 years ago. No comment. For the permanent official record, a vote taken by the people, of the people, for the people, as described in a democracy, requires a majority. The majority of people who went to the election didn't vote for Miss Lawrence. You didn't get 60% of the vote or more, Miss Lawrence. You can't say that out loud, I know. I can say it, and you can claim I'm saying something that's wrong. But like this letter Mr. Siver wrote to me when he was supporting the charter school construction, but not ready. He had a sore leg, and under democracy in Southfield, if you have a sore leg, you're prevented from voting. So in a 3-3 decision, as Mr. Siver writes, I support the desire of the owners of the flower fruit markets to make improvements to their businesses. That's been done, Mr. Siver. There's a whole new, brand new farmers market there. It's doing great. Why haven't we followed up on your promise, if elected in 2006, to pursue the Beechwoods Hamlet plan? And again, back to these tax abatements, brownfield tax grants. Didn't you approve a brownfield tax grant for Lear less than 3 years before they reported a $400 million bankruptcy? That's criminal. It cost the federal government, Miss Lawrence, because you had a staff that looked the other way. Tax abatement recipients, brownfield tax grant recipients are supposed to be monitored by people who you hire to get the job done. Mr. Charette, who was monitoring Lear after the tax abatement Mr. Siver approved in 2003 for $35 million? Did Lear create a $400 million bankruptcy in 6 years, Mr. Siver, after you approved a $35 million tax break subsequent to a residential real estate purchase? A vote of council had to take place before residential real estate was purchased by Lear. Maxitrol, right next door to me, no vote of council. Now I got what you created with Aerosmith, a 6-foot-tall fence separating my property from invasive species of weeds because we have a code enforcement department head whose head is someplace other than where I would like to speak about tonight. He told me at a roundtable discussion the mayor hosted that he would get back with me and tell me why 13 acres of trees were cut down without a permit. He hasn't gotten back to me yet, and yet his wife was appointed to city attorney position after serving me with an appraisal she ordered on my property.
Your time is
in
up.
July of 2009,
Your
just
time
prior
is up,
to the
Mr. Bunker.
Keep me from saying some of the things I'm going to have to say now, because that
Please surrender your seat. Mr. Bunker, your time is up. Please sit down.
I apologize for going over my time.
Mary Ann Burt, is she in the audience?
Don't vote. You'll get what you got 4 years ago.
Yeah.
No results.
Is Mary Ann Burt here? Let the record show that she also left. All right, we move to the council portion of the agenda. Yes, sir.
I just trying to give a little list here that I'd like to read just because just for the record, $25 million to OCC, $2.5 million to tear down Ramada, $1 million to redo Greenfield Road between 8 and 9, doing 9 Mile Road, New Huntington Bank down in Northwestern, Southfield Road south of 10 on south of Mount Vernon. We had the new bridge at Beach was south of 9.
You can stop now. She left.
Well, yeah, we're going to get on the record. Billy Sims Restaurant, Taco Bell, Telegraph Road was done, Inkster Road, Franklin Road, 10 Mile Road, the Southfield intersection. We retained a HAP in Tower 14, Oakland Hospital, rebuilt Beechwood Park, and expanded Baseline Center on 8 Mile Road, the shopping strip. So that's pretty good going south of 11 Mile Road, I would say. We're just talking about one development on
Did you get a rebuild of the Burger King on Telegraph Road?
No, that was, I didn't say that one because that's north of 11.
No, Between 9 and 10.
Oh, yeah, that one on the, yeah. Well, we'll add that one to it, Burger King. Anyway, and the other thing, I'd just like to refer, we have a letter up here regarding helping the legal department. I'd like to recommend that back to the administrator to come back to council. And I'd like to go over the reviewing of all the DPW personnel, see if we can fill some of these positions. As winter comes and things get busier, water and sewer and water breaks and everything else, I'd like to make sure that we are properly staffed. That's all I have. It's been a wonderful evening.
Speak for
Mr. President?
Yes.
I move that we approve the expense report for
Pink.
Jeremy
I'll
Moss
never wear it again.
for attending the Michigan Municipal League Conference in Detroit.
Would you support that motion, please?
Report for Jeremy Moss.
Oh, absolutely.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Mr. President, I move that we approve the expense report for Donald Fracassi for expenses incurred while attending the Michigan Municipal League Conference.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Then we need an appointment of a delegate or an alternate representative for National League of Cities. Excuse me. Mr. Frazier, will you be attending?
I plan to, if
All right.
I was,
then I think,
was I, pardon?
right, we,
As the delegate,
Voice.
nation cities.
all right, we have a motion. I need a support.
Support.
To appoint Myron Frazier as the delegate to the
Anybody
National
else
League
go?
of Cities annual business meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
All right. Is there any other council business? I would like to make mention of, and I'm sorry it's so late in the meeting, but I was walking down Rock Creek Parkway in Cranbrook neighborhood a couple of weeks ago, and I came upon at 30233 Rock Creek Drive the annual Haunt for Hunger. This is the Rock Creek Haunt House, and this is open on weekends before Halloween from dark to 10 p.m. And the admission is one non-perishable food item, and the food is donated to the Lighthouse Food Bank in Pontiac. This started a number of years ago by Keith Morency and his sons Cameron and Luke, and they've really done it up. It's quite the Halloween decorations and house. I would also mention, for the benefit of Mr. Bunker, I remain totally interested in the redevelopment of 9 Mile Road. And I'm told by Mr. Zorn that that is on a future project when we can get the money, as we've been trying for 10 years to get the money to redo Evergreen between 8 and 9, which we now have. I love the idea of the hamlet and tying in those country markets. It's very special. Any dealings with Lear were done before I was elected to council. You have your dates wrong. But at any rate, we now will move to the mayor's portion of the agenda.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
I will move to approve the expense report for Mayor Lawrence for expenses incurred while attending the U.S. Conference of Mayors 2003 summer meeting, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Mayor, do you have something else for us this morning?
Yes, I do want the viewing public to know there's been a lot of discussion about the Affordable Health Care Act and how you can sign up, and there is a lot of confusion. I want you to know that in contact with the U.S. Council of Mayors and mayors across the country, their libraries are being used as a point of information. So if you are looking for information about health care insurance through the Affordable Care Act, at our own Southfield Library on Wednesday, November the 6th, between 1:30 and 3:30, navigators from the Wayne State University Physician Group will be on hand to get you started in the right direction, or using a paper application. You would have to bring along your Social Security numbers, your employer income information for every member of your household who needs coverage, and policy numbers of any health care insurance plans covering your household currently. But you can go call the library, or you can go on our website for the library to get some more information. And also, again, on December 12th, there will be the Area Agency on Aging will be presenting, again, an opportunity for you to learn about your benefits under the Affordable Health Care Act. And we do encourage you to use this opportunity, in the city of Southfield is again being part of the solution in trying to help our community navigate through this. I also want to, I'm sure the schools will advertise this, but the McDonald's Celebration of Black History Canvas, Moments on Canvas, is hosting an art contest for students age 13 through 18, and you could win a prize up to $5,000 in cash. And you can go to www.blackmomentsoncanvas.com. If you have an artist in your family, regardless of where you live, this is a great opportunity for you. I did want to mention a couple events. This year has been just a really great year. Our council and myself and our city clerk have attended a number of neighborhood associations, and I attended a few during the month of October. I'm pretty sure they're pretty much done now outside anyway, but these were neighborhood picnics and outside events. And I just want to say to all the communities and everyone I went to, I thank you for having them, because if we bring the community together and if we really work hard to keep this a sense of place, we will continue to be a strong city. Sometimes I sit at this mic and I hear some of the complaints that we have about this community. No community is perfect, but I will run a race with any city when it comes to what we have to offer. And our residents must keep us on our toes by sharing their concerns. But it is incumbent upon me as the mayor of this city and elected official to let you know that as much as the debate that happens on our council when there's developments, this property or development will be here long after all of us are gone. And we have to make sure that we get the best development possible. And it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it's way too long in the night, but we have to get it right. And we are developing, and Councilman Fakasi did name a number of developments on the south side of 10 Mile. And I can tell you that the DDA area, and tonight I made 2 more appointments of major stakeholders into that board to really invest. The housing of that, we are engaging on major policy reviews of inspection of multifamily homes, because it's imperative that all housing in our community, on whatever side you are of 696, that it has a Southfield standard. We are paving roads that are on the south side of 10 Mile Road, because our roads, when you hit Southfield, we want you to know that you're in the city of Southfield. We have neighborhood associations that are very strong on the south side of our city, and we support them, and they are some beautiful custom-built homes that are not duplicated anywhere else in our city on the south side. The Northland area that so many people reference, that is privately owned, and we are in constant dialogue and discussion and sometimes debate about that property. I'm telling you to hold on, for those of you who are dismayed about Northland, because there will be a change in Northland. I won't tell you if it'll be tomorrow or if it'll be 4 years from now, but there will be a change. There is dialogue and there's discussions that are being made. I wanted to say that we were invited, as we have been for a number of years, to Plum Hollow. That's a private golf course in our city, and it is absolutely beautiful. And they invite us to talk about them being a premier property owner here in the city of Southfield, and to talk about their plans. And this Plum Hollow has been there since the 40s, I think, right?
21.
Since 1921. And they wanted us to know that they're investing in the private club, and they're updating it, and they're reinvesting in that property. And that's something that is extremely important. If you don't see the facade of a building changing, but if the owners of properties are reinvesting in those buildings and upgrading them and bringing them back to life, making them more vibrant, that is part of what keeps the city strong. Here it is, a private golf course that wanted us to know that they are reinvesting in their property. We just recently had a real estate broker luncheon in the city of Southfield. So these are real estate brokers from all over the state, and some from outside, from Ohio and other areas, that went throughout our city. And we hosted the luncheon here in our city, and it was energizing and exciting to have all these different brokers looking at our city and what we have to offer. And you heard Mr. Jonas say that he was teasing them with his property, even though he didn't have an approved site plan. This is the location, and this is my vision. The CDA and the DDA was included as well. So the South Side, and if you want to talk about the city center, were both featured. And we were telling people, we want you to invest. This is what we have. And so we're continually doing that. Do we have a harder sell than maybe a whole green South Lion? Maybe so. But we have so much to offer, and no one can take away our location. And most of the brokers were saying that is something that no one can trump you on in Southfield, and that is your location. So we just need to build on that. And I just wanted to say that the city of Southfield will have an election, and I know my clerk is going to talk about that. There's a number of us who's up for election, including myself. And I tell people this every election. Yes, I want your vote, but I want you to vote. This election has one of the smallest turnouts because people, sometimes they say that's a good sign, because when people are happy, they just stay at home and they don't vote. That breaks my heart because of the right to vote. Being an African American and being a woman and knowing my history is something that I don't care what color you are or what gender you are. You should exercise your right to vote. It is imperative for our country, for our cities. And there are some people that come to this mic and criticize, and they don't even vote. So if you don't vote, you kind of say, I don't have a voice. But we must recognize and respect our right to vote. So please, ladies and gentlemen, you know, all of us sitting here would love to have your vote. But I fundamentally and just really passionately say, I want you to vote. I want to be the mayor of a city that respects that right and utilize their vote. And so that when we are sitting here, you know, we are here because the people put us here. And I want the majority of this city to be voting. So thank you.
All right, thank you. The administrator, anything?
I have nothing to add, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
All right, Ms. Attorney?
Nothing this evening, Mr. President.
Okay, I know our clerk has a final word on the coming election.
Yes, I just want to remind everyone again to please remember to get out and vote on Tuesday, November 5th. The polls will be open from 7 o'clock in the morning till 8 in the evening. If for some reason you are unable to attend the polls on November 5th, you are eligible to obtain an absentee ballot. We are processing them every single day. The office hours are 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. The Saturday prior to the election, November 2nd, the office will be open from 9 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon to also process absentee ballots. So please, we encourage everyone to remember to come out and vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
Just quickly, parking waivers keep coming up from development to development. I would like to ask the council that we, at a future study session, get some direction about maybe reviewing at least our parking standards and bringing back some recommendations.
I'd like the council to make a recommendation to the planner that he do a study on what other municipalities are doing as far as parking requirements for the various uses, and bring that back to us at a future study session.
I think that could be a presidential directive rather than making it a formal vote.
All right. I will so direct the planner to bring that to a study session. All right. We have an ordinance to enact, and that's our final piece of business tonight. Enacting Ordinance 1615, which has to do with the emergency management and homeland security definitions in our ordinance. This is a title change only. Do I have a
Mr.
motion?
President?
Yes, sir.
I move that we enact ordinance number 1615.
Support.
Been moved by Mr. Frazier, supported by Mr. Moss. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Could I beg your indulgence for just a couple of minutes? I want to say a couple of things that the mayor, in her comments, that caused me to think of some things to say.
Sure.
I'll make it real quick. One of the things is if Affordable Care Act, we've been told by folks that are on the inside, the insurance agents, that be careful of scammers. There are folks out there that are trying to take advantage of people signing up. They'll call you up and start getting personal information from you, pretending that they're actually signing you up for the Affordable Care Act when they're really scammers trying to empty your bank accounts. So be real careful who you talk with and what kind of information you give anybody. Make sure you're dealing with a real person. Also on Wednesday, there's a candidates forum at the library. The League of Women Voters is sponsoring. So I recommend that you come out and find out who the candidates are and what they stand for, so that you'll be an informed voter. 6:30, I believe it is. If you get there 6:30, you'll get a good seat anyhow. And then one other thing that the mayor said that caused me to think of something. That yesterday I was on my way home from church, and we get criticized quite a bit about the city and how we do things. I was on my way home from church, and I was coming down 14 Mile Road, and I'm going to let you figure out what community I was in. And I was coming down 14 Mile Road, and I pulled over to the side because there was a police car with sirens and lights coming up behind me, and they went zooming past me and down 14 Mile Road and turned south on Southfield Road. So I continued on down 14 Mile, turned south on Southfield Road, and I noticed there was a huge plume of smoke over on the right-hand side of Southfield, back in the neighborhood. And I said, "Oh, it looks like somebody's house is on fire." And I went down Southfield Road, to where Starbucks is. I went into Starbucks, and there were 3 cars ahead of me, and they all had, I think they were trying to buy out Starbucks, because it seemed like it took about 7 or 8 minutes for me to work my way to the front of the line. I left Starbucks, and I got down to 13 Mile Road. Now, from the time the police car passed me until I got down to 13 Mile Road was probably a good 10, 12 minutes. A fire truck from that community came down 13 Mile Road and north on Southfield Road, headed for the plume of smoke that was almost dissipated at that point. It was, I mean, it had gone from a huge plume of smoke down to something that was, you could see something was burning, but it wasn't as intense as it was. That won't happen in Southfield. Our fire trucks get there. If the police knew about it, the fire trucks knew about it, and our fire trucks would have been on the job of protecting the property of that homeowner. I presume it was a homeowner. Now, we don't do everything right, but there are some things that we do excellent. So I would just like to share that. Thank you.
I might add that the Jewish Community Center is also helping filling out forms.
Are they? Okay.
All right, with that, we are adjourned.